Hi everybody, hopefully you can hear me okay. Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. So today my plan is to teach a kind of a little mini yin class. Those of you who used to take my Sunday night classes in Los Gatos years ago, you'll recognize some of the poses in this class. So we're just going to begin. Hi Rosa, can you hear me okay? Alright, so we're just going to begin, we're actually going to begin standing, but you may want to have a chair, like a comfortable chair or a couch nearby. And then you also might want to have a couple of pillows or maybe even a folded up blanket to have nearby as well. Okay? Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. Hi Sally. Okay. So we're just going to begin with the feet a comfortable space apart. Soften the knees, relax your shoulders, and just begin to breathe a little bit, hopefully through your nose, but if you're feeling congested, then however you can breathe. And let's place the hands on the belly and feel your belly expand as you inhale, and feel your belly contract a little as you exhale. Nothing too extreme. And start to notice the weight in your feet. Notice if you're gripping your toes. See if you can shift a little bit towards the toes and then towards the heels, and find a place that feels very stable. You might even need to shift a little bit side to side, especially if you've got one side that's a little bothersome. Good. Okay, so now we're going to come into our first posture, and if you're like me, you're doing a lot of sitting time at the computer, so this is one of my favorite postures to walk into or step into when I take a break from being at the computer. And it's just a standing forward bend. If you are not comfortable putting your head below your heart, you can always sit on your chair or your couch and just simply let your torso fold forward. Otherwise, you're welcome to separate your feet a little wider than before. We want to keep a soft bend to the knees and then start to fold forward. And you're welcome to rest your elbows on your thighs, or you can hold your opposite elbows. Find a way, a position that you can manage where your head gets to relax. Now I'm going to be periodically checking in, so I'm going to turn my head to look at you from time to time, but ideally I'd like you to be able to just let the head hang. And you might start off by kind of bobbling the head a little bit side to side just to check what tension you have there in the neck. And breathe. So when we were standing upright, we had a very specific way of distributing the weight on the feet. Now that we're folded forward, you might notice that that weight has shifted a bit. So like we did when we were standing, rock a little bit forward to back, and maybe even one side to the other, until you feel that the weight is balanced on the feet, and it might even be a little more towards the heels. Okay. Now, if you've been resting with your elbows on your thighs for a few minutes now, if you would like to try to hold the opposite elbows and just let the upper body hang, see how that feels to you. What I love about this is it tractions my spine, creates a different pull on my spine. I'm going to take just a couple more breaths here, wherever here is for you. And then we'll shift immediately from here into a squatting position. So if you're comfortable with squatting, you can just go right into it. If you find that you need the heels to be supported, then that's where you would bring in your props, right? You would sit up on something. Maybe not these pillows, they're a little too soft, but you know, fold up your blanket, fold up your mat, sit down so that your heels are resting up against something. Yeah, and just see how that is for you. This is hard on the knees. What I would recommend is go a little bit higher and a little wider. So it may look more like you're getting ready to hike a football, but eventually the hips will go down, down, down. Maybe not today, maybe not this body, maybe the next one that you inhabit. And you're just going to pause there. Again, noticing how the weight is distributed on your feet. And how's your breath in this pose, in this position? In terms of what we're doing with the hips, we are still asking quite a bit of a flex to the hips, which we've already probably been sitting in a flexed position for a good part of the day. But it is a different type of flex because it's weight bearing and it's at a different angle. So it's a little bit new for the hips. Okay, now we're going to go right back into that standing forward fold. So however you get there is your business. Nobody's looking. I'm going to use my hands on the floor and then just lift the hips up. My feet are going to come a little closer together because I really widen my feet for the squat. And then again, you can place the elbows on the thighs, or if it feels appropriate, you can let the torso dangle. And notice that I'm not grabbing for anything. I'm not really concerned even about the look of the shape. I'm really more thinking about how it feels on the backs of my legs, in my feet, and then especially around my hips and my spine. That's really what I'm mostly interested in. What is that sensation? We want that sensation to be something on the scale, but not so extreme that we feel the need to jump out of the pose right away. So you have to work with your body and your present circumstances in order to find what that means to you. Okay. Then we're going to shift once again into that squat position. Feel what that's like in your hips, in your knees. Breathing, sensing. And we'll take one more breath here. And when you're ready, begin to transition to child's pose. So you'll shift into all fours, bring your hips back towards your heels, forehead low, rest the elbows against something, just pause and breathe. Okay. Now shift back up to all fours, and I want you to move towards the back of your mat so that you have room to move in front of you. This next progression of lunges will take you forward. So we're going to start by bringing one foot forward. Whatever foot you want to start with is fine. And you'll just come into a low lunge. We want the heel down, and we're feeling the stretch on the opposite front of the opposite hip. So now we're bringing the hip into that other position, that extended position, right? This is the one that we don't really open up. This position we don't really open up when we sit for long periods of time. Just pause here. Feel into the heel and the back of the ankle, that lovely stretch. Now, if you are healing something in your ankle, in your knee, you might just stay here for the duration. But if you're not healing something and you want to explore a little more around the ankle and the foot, you're going to turn the toes of the back foot under and use that to anchor yourself as you shift a little bit forward. And notice my heel is now coming up. My weight-bearing leg, heel is coming up. And just pause there for a little bit. You can untuck the back toes if you like. And you might even come a little bit more forward until you start to feel something in the back of your ankle, in the bottom of your foot. And then something more as you bring the knee closer to the floor. This may be where you stay. All of these positions along this spectrum are perfectly reasonable stretches to remain in. Another one is to bring that knee towards the ground. Yowza. And then another one is to bring the toes to the floor. Looks a little bit like pigeon, but my knee, my front knee, is facing directly forward. There's no angle. Okay, so that was that spectrum of movement. Now we're going to return. So I have to shift a little bit forward so that I can bring the toes of this front foot under. And then I'm going to shift back a little bit, putting weight in the front foot and on the front knee. Interesting. And then we're going to start to walk back, taking a breath or two in each area. And then maybe a little bit back. And if you are still here in this low lunge where we're meeting you, you've been in a nice low lunge for a little while, enjoy it. Okay. Good. Now we're going to shift all the way back to all fours. Wow. And let's just take the leg we had just stretched out and just reach it back behind you. Hopefully there's not a big chair. And circle the ankle around. And then in the opposite direction. Yeah. Okay. So now we lay that knee down and we bring the other foot forward. Now it's this ankle, foot, knee, interesting sensation to feel. So we start off with our low lunge. See how far forward you can comfortably go. Breathe. And remember, this could be where you stay. Or you start to shift a little forward. And it's okay for the two sides to look different. Let's start by tucking the toes of the back foot under, just so that we can get a little leverage to shift forward, letting this front heel come off the ground. So now I start to feel sensation in the back of my ankle, the lower calf area. But that feels okay, so I'm going to keep going. I'm going to start to shift my knee a little further forward. Maybe even forward still. And maybe even bringing that knee to the ground. Yeah, that's where it really gets interesting for me. And then you might even bring the toes to the floor and just sit back on that heel, kind of like a pigeon, but with the knee forward. Okay, and then we rewind. So toes tuck under. Start to walk yourself back little by little. You all know that one of my favorite animals is the sloth, right? So this could be considered sloth yoga. Going super duper slowly. This is about the speed that they move when they're on the ground. And now you have that image. You're welcome. Then shifting back a little more. So see, my heel is still off the ground. My knee is close, bent at a pretty tight angle there. So I'm getting a nice stretch at the back of the calf and the lower ankle. All right, then I'm going to put that heel back on the floor. So now I'm back into the starting position. Good. And then we'll come back to all fours. I'm going to shift forward now so I don't kick that chair again. And extend the leg I was just working with, extend it back and circle the ankle. That's nice. Good. Now that same leg is back. For me it's my right leg, and I'm going to cross it over to the left. I'm going to look over my left shoulder at the foot. Ball of my foot is on the ground. I'm pushing that heel back away from me so that I feel the stretch along the side of my body, the right side of my body. And then come back to center, and let's extend the other leg back. So here it's my left leg, cross it over the right leg, and then look over your right shoulder at that foot and push the heel back. Ball of the foot is on the floor, firmly. Breathe. Feel that along the left side of the body. Okay, and release. Okay, one more pose. You're going to walk yourself over to your chair. Shins on the floor if you can. Put props underneath your hips if you need to. And the knees can be a little bit wide or they can be close together, whatever feels okay on the tops of your feet, now that we've really opened up the feet. And then I like to take a stack of pillows here. You can always get rid of them if they're too high. And I'm going to just start to open up the chest and lean back. Lean back. And I bring the arms overhead. And I might even need to do a little tuck of the pelvis to make this more comfortable. So I want you to just be able to let the edge of the chair or the couch that you're resting against kind of push into your shoulder blades. And some of you might be able to go all the way to the floor doing this. This is saddle pose, right? So you might even be able to skip the prop and just lean all the way back this way. But for a lot of us, this is a huge stretch. And again, if you've been doing a lot of work on the computer. This may be a little too much. So in that case, feel free to use the prop. And just feel that opening across the chest, maybe in the front of the knees, a little bit in the hips. Find your breath. And then one more breath here. And on the exhale, begin to slowly make your way out. Take your time. Bring the legs around in front of you. Let the ankles circle. Really firm up around the knees. Circle the ankles in the other direction. Flex the ankles, pushing out through the feet. So this is yang. This isn't yin anymore. This is very yang. Lace the fingers. Push the palms forward and then up. So push out through your feet, push up through your hands. This is your downward dog without inverting the body. Take one more breath. Lengthen, lengthen out through the legs, out through the arms. And then exhale, release. Bringing the hands together. Finding your breath. Feeling your body. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day. Don't forget to stretch. Bye, everybody.